President Trump says he wants more deals like the agreement announced with tech giant Intel last week. It gave the U.S. government a 10% stake in its business.
The case of Intel was interesting, but I hope I'm going to have many more cases like it. There will be other cases. If I have that opportunity again, I would do that. And then, you do have stupid people say, oh, that's a shame. It's not a shame. It's called business.
The president said the deal with Intel came out of a meeting with its CEO, which took place only days after Trump called for his resignation. Let's bring in our reporter panel. Peggy Collins is Washington bureau chief for Bloomberg News. Julia Manchester is a national political reporter for The Hill. Great to see both of you. Welcome, Peggy, here to the set for the first time. And I'm glad you're here because I gotta believe that government ownership of Fortune 500 companies is a hot topic of people who subscribe to Bloomberg News and those who represent them here in Washington. Do we have any sense of what other companies the administration might be eyeing and what the business community makes of his hunt for more deals like this?
Well, I think the business community is trying to digest this, Ed, because we were following the story and covering it day to day last week. But it is unprecedented in the sense that the government at times has come in to help American companies, but that has been at a time where there's systemic risk going on, such as in the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. This is the government stepping in at a time when that isn't going on. And the White House will say this is for national security and economic purposes. But what we're seeing is the administration use investment tools to achieve economic and foreign policy goals, and that's something new.
This aligns the president to some extent with Bernie Sanders, who over the weekend was like, this is exactly what I want to see. We're not just giving money to big corporations, but we're in essence taking a stake in them and reaping the benefits. So it's incredible to see essentially socialists and this president on board with the same idea.
Well, it's interesting. I was actually scrolling through X after this was announced earlier today, and I actually saw a Democratic operative say this is socialism. And it's ironic because we hear Republicans using that word, socialist, against Democrats in a number of elections. But I think what we've seen really with the populist wings of both parties, Ed, is this horseshoe. And they, the left and the right, when it comes to the populist wings of both parties, they sort of almost come together when it comes to some of these issues of, economics. But for this is certainly shocking to hear the president. It's just completely unusual.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, that happened today at the White House is he met with the leader of South Korea, who left without a trade deal. So this is one of the big major Asian economic powers, and they still haven't sorted out how, if at all, there will be some kind of an agreement. And that leaves much of the world economy wondering, what is the status of these agreements?
Well, that's right. And that's why we've seen so many of these foreign leaders come to Washington, because they are trying to say, hey, like with South Korea, we are key to your car manufacturing sector, your chip making, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to be economically tied. But at the same time, a lot of these trade deals are just frameworks right now. One thing I will say is the South Korean leader was very complimentary of the president today. And while he didn't walk out with a trade deal per se, he didn't walk out with a worse tariff rate. At 15%, he's aligned with Japan. And given the scope of other deals or frameworks we're seeing right now, that's not a bad situation to be in.
Fair point. But yes, he did compliment the gold trim in the Oval Office. One thing I wanted to ask you in our remaining moments, we saw today the first example of the political effects of the redistricting in Texas, as Greg Casar, who represents the Austin area, announced he's running, no longer facing the threat of a primary against fellow Democrat who had said he was going to run against him, whose name I'm now, Lloyd Doggett, right?
Doggett,
Thank you.
Yes.
There's so many of them, you have to remember them all, but we're paid to do that. The significance of him jumping in now and how this begins to reshape the race for the House, at least among Texas's seats.
Yeah. Well, look, last week, Lloyd Doggett said that he would not run for re-election in that seat, assuming these pass legal muster, the maps. But it was ironic because we heard Lloyd Doggett say that Greg Casar should run in the newly redrawn 35th district outside of Austin. It was ironic, though, because Lloyd Doggett was the first House Democrat, he's in his late 70s, to call for President Biden to step down last year following that debate. So a lot of Democrats were upset with him sort of trying to push Casar to run in what would have been a really tough district.
Yeah. Karma has an interesting way of working out, doesn't it? There's a song about that. Peggy Collins, Julia Manchester, thank you both for being here. Great to see you both.